Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm hooked on a feeling. That feeling is loving this movie. Little bit weird, but even so, I did. This is a talk about Guardians of the Galaxy 2 video. Heavy spoilers will be put in this video, I am sure. I'm not sure what I'm going to say yet, but I'm sure I'll end up talking about a lot of spoilers in this film. If you have not seen this film yet, don't watch this review. There you go. Pre-warned. I really enjoyed this film. I went to see this with Mike and Steph for my birthday, the day before my birthday. I'd been planning it since the start of the year when I found out when it was getting released, and I was like, we're going. We went. And I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved this film. Steph seems to think it was better than the first one. I've seen mixed reviews on this film completely. People thinking that it's not as good as the first. People thinking that it's a pretty bad film in general. Not a bad film, but not a brilliant film. Not as good as the first one. The first one was almost groundbreaking in a way because of what it was. No one really knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy were. I definitely didn't know who the Guardians of the Galaxy were. I didn't even see it in the cinema. Mainly because I was busy when it came out. I was unavailable because it's got Batista and Chris Pratt in it. I'm a huge wrestling fan, and I love Parks and Recreation with Chris Pratt in it. So it was a no-brainer that I'd want to see this film. I just happened to miss it, and when I got to see the first one, I absolutely loved it. I've got it on DVD somewhere, I think. It's on Netflix. I've watched it countless times. I introduced it to Lauren. Lauren loved it. Now we're planning to go and see the second one in the cinema, hopefully on Saturday. So that'd be my second viewing of this film. I just thought this was a brilliant film, and I wish I'd reviewed the first one on YouTube, because what I'm going to say here now is going to sound very your feelings towards this are only because of what happened in this film. I'm a huge fan of Yondu. When I saw the first one, I was very fascinated by his arrow dart thing that was controlled by his head, and now we know his heart and his whistle. Like, how does it become a thing? How is it a thing that he controls with a whistle and things like that? I was really intrigued by it. I got a graphic novel that I still haven't read yet about Guardians of the Galaxy, to try and get into reading more about Guardians of the Galaxy, to see if I can find out about why and how Yondu controls that, because it was quite a fascinating thing, and I loved that part of the character. I loved all the characters in it, but it's very rare that I get drawn to a side character in something, and for him to be that sort of side character that I was sort of like, I want to know why and how about this, was sort of quite intriguing to me, so I wanted to read up more about it. Now I'm never going to find out already. I'm going to try and read into graphic novels and stuff like that and try and figure out. I don't like to go onto like forums or Wikipedia and just Google about it. I'd like to find out myself. I like the surprise aspect or the learning aspect of it from reading it or seeing it myself. If you wonder why I haven't Googled it. But we're definitely not going to see it in the film. Because in this film, obviously, he dies. And it was such... it was an emotional thing. I believe we heard sniffles when we were in the cinema. Mike seems to think it might be something to do with the length. They really tried to hammer home this was an emotional death scene. And it was quite an emotional death scene, and I was like, oh, like, he was actually a really cool side character that I wanted to learn more about. We got to hear a lot more about his side stuff, his... Oh, it's okay. Oh, that's interesting news. Sorry, I've just got my phone vibrating in the background, I just wanted to read it. Yeah, so... words are gone now. Yeah, I found him, like, very interesting and things like that, so I really wanted to get to know him, and I wanted to see how he'd progress in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now we're not going to really see that. Yeah, Mike seems to think that his death scene being so long, like the funeral scene and stuff like that being so long, was really trying to drag out the emotion of it, and the emotion was definitely there for me in this straight away as soon as it happened, because I was so sort of attached to that character. I was like, I really liked you. you seem to be a really cool side character. I wanted to see how you fit into this, and now I'll never know. The whole funeral thing with the they gave him the Ravager lights, is it? Or, I can't remember all the... It's been about a week or so since I saw it. Well, it's actually just been a week since I saw it. but they gave him like the Ravager funeral, Ravager burial, I believe it was, that he said he was never going to, he was told he was never going to get, which was really cool. I felt like, and like I've seen a lot of people disagree with this thought, and the more I think about it, the more I realise what I was trying to say when I said it to Mike. I felt like we didn't spend as much time with Chris Pratt in this film. Argument's sake, Chris Pratt is the main person in this film, really. It's all about his childhood and his backstory and stuff like that, and we learn more about his backstory. All about him and his father, and him and his father bonding and stuff like this, and then we find out everything that's going on with his father. But I felt like we spent a lot of time with all the side characters as well, because it was more of the last one was how they became a team. It was an origin story for the Guardians and how they became the Guardians of the Galaxy. This one was more of a origin story of every single character. So when I say like the side characters got a backstory, what I mean is the whole team sort of got a backstory. They sort of put it all in here, which was brilliant. I loved it. I love the fact that they gave everyone a backstory. You got to find out more. You sort of knew bits about Drax anyway, but the whole Nebula, Gamora backstory bit, you didn't really know about all of that stuff, and it was really interesting to find out. Obviously, Rocket has always been the way he has, and the way him and Yondu sort of bonded in this film was brilliant. Little baby Groot in this was obviously adorable. Everyone was looking forward to little baby Groot. One thing I was glad about, and Mike sort of seconded this when we were talking about it, was it looked like it was going to be Baby Groot the show, Baby Groot's little movie, and it wasn't like Piglet's big movie in a way from Winnie the Pooh when they were this is such a random link when they did a Piglet's big movie. This was like Groot's big movie, but it didn't turn out that way, which was brilliant. They kept his character to have like certain scenes that gave comic relief, but it wasn't like an overbearing thing throughout the whole film, and I loved that. I just thought it was really good, really well done film. It had the emotional it had a really really good I'm put off by everything. A really good well thought through story where they all sort of went through all these things going through together, and it sort of brought them together. It brought them closer together and more of a team. The first one sort of showed you how they became a team, and this one sort of gave you the idea of how they really became a group, how they became a unit, while also keeping their characters individual. Rocket and Star-Lord obviously clashing all the time because they've both got huge egos. Gamora trying to keep everyone's head level and straight and things like that, and Drax just being very literal about everything. Like, they kept all their characters' traits while also showing us their backstories and how they became that character. I just loved it. It was such a good film. I saw someone say online that they'd never see this film again. They wouldn't go out of their way to see it again, and I'm going for a second time. It's going to be a very hit or miss film for a lot of people. The cameos in this film were ridiculous. One of the bad things I've got to say about this film was the after film credits. There were 5. It was well known there was going to be 5 after movie credits, and it really built up the fact that so I accidentally spoiled. This could be a spoiler for future Marvel movies, so feel free to leave now if you don't want to hear that. I accidentally spoiled for myself that Guardians of the Galaxy were in Infinity War, which might be a well-known fact now for some people. So we knew they were going to be in there, and it was sort of like, let's see how these fit into the Avengers, is what we expected from the after credit scenes. That didn't happen. They set up the possible villain for the third movie, if it gets a third movie, which I'm sure it will, which is Adam, and I had to watch a Easter egg review thing to explain who Adam was, and he's quite a big character from what I can gather, so that could be interesting. The gold people in this film, the sovereign people in this film, were a bit hit or miss for me. I was a bit like, every time they came onto screen, I was thinking, right, can we just get on with the like escaping prison scenes and stuff like that, and let's get back to the Chris Pratt stories and stuff like that, because you're really killing the vibe for me here. I liked their little shuttle things that they were using to attack the Guardian ship with. Looked very much like a arcade, which was really cool, really cool. But yeah, I wasn't really fussed that they were in the film. I wasn't a huge fan of the Pac-Man reference in this film. It just seemed completely out of place. It's small things that I was like, okay, well, I can forget. I can forgive and forget that. It didn't ruin the film for me, let's put it like that. But there was no mention of Infinity War. There was no other Marvel characters in any of the after credit shots. Just a setup, really, for Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which was pretty upsetting in a way. And a Stan Lee second cameo. His first cameo was there, and then his second cameo was right at the end of the credits, and I was like, you could have replaced that with Thor, or Iron Man, or someone, or something to link you to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I always describe Guardians of the Galaxy as the run to the litter, like, forgotten stepson sort of thing. They're very much off to the side, almost don't feel like they're part of the cinematic universe, really. And they seem to be like this, like, run to the litter at the side that no one really cares about. So much so that they're not even linked to Infinity War that they're going to be in currently. I'm hoping that when we see, like, one of the other films like Ragnarok or Homecoming or something like that at the end of them, one of the after credit scenes in one of those is going to be the Guardians. But I don't know why they didn't just put them this way around so the Guardians had them in there. I don't know. Yeah, I'd have preferred a bit more setup for that. But yeah, apart from that, I really enjoyed this film. I'm happy to go and see it again. I'll probably end up getting it on DVD. I really, really liked this film. If you're looking forward, the thing I liked about it, that I described that I like about it the most to Mike, was they split the film. You got the origin of everyone's background, but you also got all this action. So when they split the film and Chris Pratt's character, Star-Lord, goes and meets his father with Gamora and Drax, you've also got Rocket, Yondu and Groot doing all this action stuff, escaping from a prison and things like that. So when they start getting their backstory talked about, on the other side you've got Gamora and Nebula. I'm struggling with my words today. It's about 10 o'clock at night, so I wouldn't be surprised. When they're talking about their backstory, those two are having their fight. Then when you start finding out about their backstory, we really hit the climax of the film. So, like, there's never... Sometimes I'll find when you do an origin story, or like you find out origin stories and stuff like that, it's a little bit quiet and it's a little bit... I keep saying stuff like that. I'm so sorry. It's a little bit quiet. It's a little bit more subdued when you want the action-packed scenes. It's a superhero movie at the end of the day. Like, you expect your action-packed scenes, and some of them can have, like, really quiet moments when they're doing origin stories. Whereas this, because they split it, it really worked because you still got your action as well as your side story, and it all stuck with you. I loved it. I loved this film. I came out of the cinema and I was like, Lauren, this film is amazing. We need to go. I can't wait to go again. And I've gone from amazing to loving it, and I wouldn't say that's a bad shift. I think the first one is amazing for what it is, because you don't expect as much as you get in that film. But I wouldn't put it on the same level as number 2. I think they're very different films. So, first one's probably always going to be my favourite, but this second one, to me, you always get, when the sequels come out, you always think the sequel's worse than the first one. I would not say this is worse than the first one. I enjoy them both to the same degree, but they're both very different stories. So yeah, that's how I feel about this film, I think. Hopefully, if I get a chance to, me and Lauren, if we go and see this on Saturday, we'll do another little bit of a video. I've now got a different perspective going into the film because I've seen it once. We'll get Lauren's perspective from it. Fingers crossed all of that will happen. This is also 3 for 3 in videos. If you're following the little connection there, you'll see what I'm saying. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the film. Let me know what you thought of the film. Like I said, I'm getting loads of different mixed opinions on this. It seems to be dividing people a little bit. So I'd be curious to see what you think. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again in the next one.